Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Learn with Jason. Today on the show, we're bringing back Fred K. Schott. Fred, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm very, very excited about today because this is something that has kind of captured my imagination since the first moment I saw it, and then and I'm talking about multiple pieces of what we're going to talk about today. But before we talk about that, let's talk about you for a minute. So, for folks who aren't familiar with you and your work, do you want to give us a bit of a background?
Yeah, I'd love to. I am an open source developer first and foremost. I've been working in open source for I feel like over a decade now, at different companies, and then more recently on Astro and some of the projects that led up to it, Pika, Skypack, Snowpack. These are some deep cuts at this point, but I've really kind of fallen into Astro over the last 2 years, which just had its 3.0 release. So if you're not familiar, it's a web framework. It helps you build websites that are super fast, really content focused. It's great for marketing sites, blogs, docs, starting to do more stuff around apps and web apps. So it's just this really unique take on web development and what framework kind of front-end architecture can look like that is very different than the rest and really special.
Yeah, I think Astro is one of the things that really captured my imagination as soon as I saw it, because I felt like it was one of the first frameworks that I've ever encountered where it didn't feel like I was kind of battling between the two sides of my developer internal self, because on the one hand, it feels like if you use something like Hugo or Jekyll or Eleventy, the push is like no JavaScript. You're feeding it files, it's spitting out HTML and CSS, and if you want to do JavaScript, you're completely on your own. You got to kind of build all of that custom on top of whatever you're building with a static site generator. And then on the other side, you've got the Next.js, the Gatsby, the Vue, SvelteKit, whatever they are, where once you build, it has to be all JavaScript. Like, it hydrates to be a full JavaScript experience. And, you get good experiences in both, and both of them have incredible strengths. But I always felt like I wanted to be somewhere in the middle. Like, I usually only want HTML and CSS, but almost every site I build needs a little bit of JavaScript. And so I felt like I was making this concession where, because I needed a little bit of interactivity, I had to go all in on all JavaScript. And so when I saw Astro, I was just kind of like, oh, this is the one that gets me, because I get to be HTML and CSS until I don't need to be, and then just that one little piece can opt in to be dynamic and JavaScript. And so that kind of became my default immediately. And so the other piece...
That's so well put. Like, what if I just need a little bit of JavaScript?
Right.
We do that all the time on our own, homepage, mostly static. But there's this one little component, that would be really cool if that was interactive in some way.
Yeah.
That's exactly the model that we optimize for.
And you mentioned that you're getting into more app use cases. I kind of, without meaning to, I got into some really heavy app use cases. I've been throwing in authentication. I've been building dashboards. I built a real-time thing. There's actually some, for anybody who wants to try it, there is a live reactions thing on the site now. Let me get a link to it. So if anybody's in the chat and you want to try this out, go ahead and click there. You'll have to sign in with your Discord or whatever, and then you can fire off reactions and stuff. And so,
wait, I want to do this.
Yeah, hold on.
I want to fire off reactions.
Let me make sure my reactions are actually on here. This is the Party Kit thing, yeah. So
Party Kit is so cool.
It really is. And so this will make it work now, where now if you start firing off your reactions, you'll see them come up in the bottom of the live stream. And so that's an Astro site with Party Kit, right? And so it is entirely rehydrated into a dynamic app, but I was like, dang, that's super cool that we can do that. And I didn't have to think about, my bundler. I didn't have to think about how to get all this stuff to work. In fact, the only thing that I had to fix was something on the Party Kit side, because they're using a Cloudflare environment, and I had to go patch package to get some node specifics out and make that work. Thanks to Neil for doing that for me, because I would not have figured that out on my own. But so you can get into these really cool appy things where, and if anybody's looking at this Party Kit watch page. That login is Clerk running in Astro. The reactions themselves are like real-time WebSockets running through PartyKit, powered by Astro. Like this is all, you can build this incredibly complex stuff and you don't have to, I love it. It just makes me very, very happy.
Yeah, well this was a very like organic, like, what's that like, oh, that's interesting, ... moment of like everything we built was like small bits of JavaScript, content sites. Like that's the type of developer, like I need this for my marketing site. If I'm building like a SaaS app, I'm actually like decently happy with Next.js or a Svelte kit. Like long-lived sessions, I don't need to worry about performance as much. So a spa even is totally fine for that. Optimized for the use case versus, just trying to get performance for the sake of performance. There is a really good use case for spas.
Right.
But what we learned was that the island architecture, this thing that we'd pitched as like islands of JavaScript, of interactive UI, that could be the entire page, could just be a giant island. We need like some catchy name like continents architecture or like archipelago or I don't know, some landmass. But you can basically say everything at / admin or / app should actually just be this one giant island, which is a spa. And once you start looking at it that way, well, like, okay, well now I need an API. Now I want, PartyKit, middleware, auth, and like all of these things actually essentially start to boil you over to like a shell, or like an app shell architecture where Astro can still kind of present the shell of the app. So you're still getting some server rendering, maybe like a cool little like kind of logo, or even if it's just like a little bit of hydration. But then the front end app loads and you get the full client side without worrying about like who owns a state, are we sharing like state and like patching fetch. Like it ends up just being a fully client side. You get all that simplicity. That was something that we really started to connect to, and we never guessed that was going to happen. Like that surprised us more than anyone. I think that, oh, this is actually really nice.
Yeah. I kind of did that by mistake the first time that I built it, and I was like, oh, this is it. Because what I want, right, is when something is dynamic, I want it to be dynamic, but that shouldn't mean that like the footer of my site now needs to be generated by JavaScript. That part doesn't make sense to me. And so what I love about this approach is, so I have my .astro file that serves my header and my footer, and then my header maybe hydrates in a search box that's a dynamic app. But otherwise, it's all just static HTML, CSS. And then the app itself, maybe everything between the header and footer is going to be dynamic. But like, I don't have to care. I'm like, I built my app, and then the app part, oh, that needs to be clickable. Okay, like, run it on the client. Cool, easy peasy, like we're done. And now we're off to the races, and I'm not thinking about how any of this stuff works or whether I need to, be in I'm not using client, using node, using whatever. I'm just building the thing. And then I say, okay, that one's dynamic. Off, and I stopped thinking about it. I've just built a feature, and now I'm like moving on to the next piece of value, not worrying about the infrastructure or the boilerplate that makes the value I'm trying to build possible.
I love how you framed it at the start. I'm actually super jealous. I hadn't thought of that myself. It's like, it was either all HTML, you're on your own with JavaScript, or it's all JavaScript and you have no control over the larger story. It's just all JavaScript. This is kind of that middle path of like, it's all HTML, but we're giving you this primitive to control the page. And it can be anything from just HTML to JavaScript. Like that's the new primitive that I think we've essentially unlocked here with Island architecture. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so and y'all just hit 3.0 yesterday, so congratulations on that. Thank you.
So let's talk.
I have a celebratory. I got this from Cloudflare. It was very kind. They sent me this.
Oh, that's super cool.
I don't have anywhere to put it though. It's kind of the problem.
Oh, but you know what we just did, Fred, is we just revealed the magic behind the curtain that we mirrored your video. So we got on and we realized that.
What did that say?
Fred and I were Fred and I were both facing the same direction, so it looked like we were. So we just.
I can still recreate it.
Yeah, this was how we were first. So we flipped his video, and I was like, somebody's going to notice that it's backwards, and then Fred just gave the game away.
What can you do? Movie magic.
No, I love it. So in Astro 3, there are a bunch of kind of new things and not too many like breaking changes. I looked through, and I think the most significant one and they were really all just like for me as a tutorial author, I was like, the default port changed to 4321, which is great. But I do have to go update.
I am so sorry to anyone who's ever written a tutorial or a course on Astro. It's worth it to do it earlier rather than later. If you want to
Yes.
talk about why we did that, but yeah, I am so sorry from the bottom of my heart. Every blog needs to be updated now. It's brutal.
And then the other one that was like a notable change to me was that the endpoints, the methods change from being lowercase to uppercase, which I very much agree with that choice to like export uppercase get, uppercase post, because it also lets us do like uppercase delete, which wouldn't have worked in lowercase, right? Like there are good reasons to do that, and it makes things consistent. But I'm definitely about to re-record a video on how to make a JSON API with Astro because it went into editing the day before.
I might be blanking on this for some reason. Is it deprecated or is it gone completely the lowercase form?
It's probably deprecated, but I want to make sure I'm teaching the best practice.
Yeah.
So I don't want people to
You got some time. You got
Yeah,
some time, sure.
Absolutely.
Because that costs us really nothing in our implementation, so
Sure,
it's okay for us to keep that around.
For sure.
Other things that we might be trying to lose.
But so let's talk about what's new. And you know, so the big one I think for me at least is the support for the View Transitions API. That was really exciting. So maybe talk a little bit about that. How did that come to be, and how does it work inside of Astro?
Yeah, that was a really, really just organic process. We had been following that API for a while. So if you don't know, View Transitions, it's basically what if the browser was able to handle animations for you. So here's the start point, here's the end point. Hey, browser, can you animate between these two things? We talk about it a lot in terms of page transitions, but it's actually something that you can do even like I start typing or I click a button and I want to change state in some way. It's a really flexible API. It's just A to B, let the browser handle that animation through CSS and HTML, maybe a little bit of JavaScript, but yeah, ultimately letting the browser take on that work. This is still fairly new. It's not supported in all browsers, but this was something that was like kind of an answer to our prayers. Like the idea of going from page A to B in an Astro site has always been server rendered HTML. So the browser's going to like literally like shoot you out of a cannon from page A to page B. Like your state gets blown away, everything gets blown away, full page reload, which the performance is worth it. We think most users are totally fine with that and comfortable with that, but it's something that the kind of like spa crowd has always held over us, right? Like, oh, a nice app you can fade and transform and animate. Like that's the thing that spas have that Astro will never have. Like because you need, at least in the traditional world, you needed a full JavaScript router. Basically, the client had to own routing, which is basically the thing that like all other decisions kind of flow from. So we didn't have that. Server rendered HTML means the server owns routing, means the browser is just going to kind of shoot you over. View Transitions solves that for us.
Yeah. Well, and so I've seen like there's the simple version, like the built-in API. If you just turn it on and don't do any configuration, it does like a crossfade, right? And I think that's really nice because it gives you this feeling of like, oh, we're in an app, like things are moving between spaces, but with relatively low config. And it sounds like I haven't actually played with this yet. I was holding off because I wanted to learn today with you. But it sounds like you've built in some like pre-baked config to give some like common style. Like I think one of the ones that I saw teased was like a slide left and right, depending on how you're navigating. And then the other really cool thing that I saw teased is that you've also figured out a way that if you're doing view transitions and you've got something that should persist, like a video player or you've got your podcast audio player or something like that, and you don't want that to get reset on page navigations, like you want the audio to keep playing no matter where you are on the site, you built in support for that as well.
Yeah, if you check out the, I just posted in chat, the Astro 3 link, or sorry, you, audience, whoever, there's some really cool videos in there just showing off like all the things you can do. Yeah. Different effects for transitions, persistence of like an audio or a video player. It's such a simple API that like unlocks just like so many possibilities that were just totally hidden from us because we didn't have the full SPA architecture.
Right. Yeah. And it makes like, I don't know, it just makes it even harder for me to justify not using Astro. Like, and you know, this is something that I've just sort of been moving toward more and more is I was always using Vite. It was like, okay, I'm either using Vite or I'm hitting a really, really complicated edge case at which point I would reach for one of the more complex frameworks like Remix or Next or whatever. And then as Astro has gotten more and more powerful, I've just kind of been, I'm like, well, I don't really need like Remix to do this. I don't need Next to do that. I you know, Astro is basically Vite, so I don't really need Vite. I can just use Astro, and I'm kind of happy no matter what I'm doing. And I think that's been a really fun fun transition for me, where I feel like it's helped me just eliminate an entire category of worry, where I was before. You have this like, okay, new project, run through the flow chart. What's the right framework for this project? And now I've inverted that in my mind, where it's like, okay, new project. Is there any reason why this shouldn't be Astro? And I'm running out of reasons why I wouldn't just start there. Like there are a few things that, I don't know, maybe if I was like building something that had zero static HTML whatsoever. But if that was the case, I don't know. Like, it's very hard for me to just be like, I don't know. Like, why would I ever reach for Next or Remix again? And also, this is part of my like grumpy web dev, where like I lived through the last round of everything as a server, and all you have to do is be good at managing caching. And it's like one of those, it's like that 10,000 foot if. This isn't a problem if you're good at caching. And it's like, but nobody's good at caching. And
isn't
so,
that like one of the like memes of like, what is the two biggest problems in like software development? It's always naming stuff and caching.
Yeah. It's naming, cache, and validation, and off by one errors.
Exactly.
But so all that being said, I think so the Vue transitions is huge, is really exciting. Are there any other like big announcements that are coming out in Astro 3 that you want to make sure that we highlight?
I mean, the image optimization that's built into Astro now, it's one of those things, we might have even talked about it like ages ago. It's been in development. We've really been kind of like perfecting it. It's one of those like iceberg problems where like what we ship to you is an image component that you just like pass the image in. And then under the water is like, how are you optimizing it? Like, when do you, how do you choose the right width and height, and how do you make it responsive, and all these things, performant, work in dev across any kind of host. Like, there's so much complexity there. So we finally got that to a place where like, this is stable. We feel good about it. Really proud of just all the effort that went in there from the team. Yeah.
Really, really good stuff in here. All right, so I could probably just continue talking about this for a while, and I guess it's probably worth calling out, like, I'm not paid by Astro. I just really like it, because I was like listening to myself talk. I'm like, it sounds like I like, but no, for real. Like it really has just become like my default. So let's talk.
Jason, you got to take the hat off. Then I'm sorry, the hat's giving it away.
Okay, all right, sorry. No, okay.
No, I like that.
No, we're bringing it back. I love this hat. I needed a new hat too. This worked out. Like, the timing was perfect. Are these going to be available? I saw a bunch of people clamoring for these, and I know that I got mine kind of directly, which was, thank you very much. Thanks, Twee, for hooking me up. Are these going to be something that everybody can grab?
Yeah, I don't want to tease, like, I think something we have coming out later today, maybe tomorrow, but like, if you follow astro.build, spelled out DOT, on Twitter, we're going to be tweeting about them when they go out later this week. We made 100, which at the time we thought was like, yeah, that's fine. And now it's like, oh no, this is not. I'm worried they're going to sell out fast. We might have to do a second run, but yeah, good reason to keep an eye on our Twitter, because I don't know when they're going out, but I think it's going to be a pretty quick sellout.
Yes, I just dropped a link both to the shop, which is where I assume they'll be available, and to the Twitter. All right.
Nice. So okay, yeah, they're not there yet. They will be soon.
So why don't we take a minute here, and let's switch over into pair programming mode. So first and foremost, actually, before we go too far, I'm going to... Oh, you know what I forgot to do is I forgot to actually start sending the captions, which means anybody who's got those on, you're about to see all the captions flood through really fast. Sorry about that. We have had Vanessa from White Coat Captioning here with us from the start, doing the doing the captioning, making the show more accessible, and that is made possible through the support of our sponsors. We've got Netlify and Vetsu Code kicking in to make this show more accessible, which I very much appreciate. You can find all that right here on the old website.
I love that you do that. That's so cool.
It is, it's something that when I was at Netlify, I was talking to Sarah Drasner about this, and I was like, I feel weird doing a video show that for somebody who wouldn't be able to like follow along with video. But I don't know, like, I was like, I looked into robo captioners and they're not very good. They miss all the JavaScript words. So I was like, so that's not really useful. And she was like, well, why don't you just hire like a human captioner? I was like, I can't afford that. And she was like, well, let's make sure that you can afford it. And so we worked it into the Netlify budget to cover the live captioning. And then, you know, now that I'm not at Netlify anymore, I'm out for broader sponsors because Netlify is not covering all of it anymore. But you know, we're working on it. And hey, if your company wants to sponsor something, hit me up. But okay, so we are talking today to Fred. Is this the right place?
Hello.
Like, where are we even sending people these days? Like, I'm sending them to Twitter still, but
Yeah.
who knows what the right choice
I
is.
have a personal site that I like to show you how old it is. It's not even written in Astro. It's like, I think, Jekyll or something from a long time ago.
What is it?
I'm not telling you.
Come
We're not going
on.
there.
Is it fks.com? No, dang it. That would have been too
flavored.
good.
Yeah, you found it. That's it.
And we're talking today about Astro. So let me drop a link here. And then earlier you mentioned this Astro 3.0 blog post, which has all sorts of goodies in it about what's new and what's changed. So you can hit that. And from here, I'm ready. I want to learn about Astro 3.0. So I'm going to put myself in your hands and let's go from here. What should I do first if I want to get started with Astro?
All right. Well, new project, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally
let's go from scratch.
So let's scroll down a little bit. There'll be two different ways we can go. The one that's the easiest way is astro.new. If you just check that out, loads up StackBlitz in the browser. Use any one of these. You can kind of play around all in your browser without having to do much. I have a feeling we're going to get pretty deep, so this probably isn't what we want to do for this demo, but shout out to that site. And StackBlitz is awesome. The fact that you can just run it locally in your browser
super
is
cool.
so cool. Yeah.
Right.
But that command you see right there, npm create Astro, that's what you're going to want to run.
All right, let me pull up a code editor, which is over here. And actually, I'm going to probably close this one and get a new one. All right, there's my terminal. So I'm running. Let's go into my GitHub stuff first. GitHub. All right. Then we're going to run this command. And
all right, that's our little buddy Houston.
Love it.
Walk you through it.
And we'll call this one Astro 3 Tour. All right. Do you want me to do sample files? You want to go empty?
Yeah, let's do let's do the blog template. I think that'll be the best one. If we're going to be playing around with view transitions, we don't have to get as much.
Okay.
Most people, I'd say the like basic files and empty if you want to like just totally start from scratch. But this will be nice if we want to play around with view transitions. It'll give us a couple of pages to already be able to jump around.
Nobody has to watch me write a bunch of CSS.
Yeah, we might get a little CSS going. One of my favorite things, which we don't do, but Theo does this with Create T3 app. If you ask, do you want to write TypeScript or not? And you say no, it just says, wrong. You are writing TypeScript. You should be writing TypeScript. And then it just keeps going. It's like a very snarky, sassy little bot.
That's really funny.
Not really for what we're going for with our vibe, but very funny, I find enough.
Okay, I'm not going to deal with that right now. So, all right, we've got public files. So looks like some placeholder images, some fonts, good. And then we have our source folder set up here. Anything I should be looking at? Actually, let me switch over to. I have a profile that's less cluttered. There we go. That's going to look a little nicer.
Nice.
Great.
So that looks great. I spin up a terminal, or the terminal you're already using. But yeah, there you go. It gave you these instructions in the end of that command you just ran, but npm run Astro or npm run dev. Sorry, is going to be the npm start. I guess technically when it works as well.
Okay, and there's the new port 4321. All right. So we've got.
All right, there you go. So just a basic site, nothing too fancy here.
Cool. Yep. Everything's working the way we expect. We've got images. We've got all the good
Yeah, this is the kitchen
Markdown.
sink.
Excellent. All right.
Probably makes sense. I mean, there's a couple of like little like here's a couple places you can go from here, but would it make sense to do a quick walkthrough of the like code base, like the file structure, just
Yeah.
quick high level? All right, cool. Public is where any assets you want to go that aren't affected by the build. So these are like static assets. You just want them, slash blog placeholder.png is going to be slash blog placeholder png on the final site. We don't touch anything in public. They're just static. The source directory is where we do kind of own it. So that's where the responsibility of Astro is to kind of build and bundle your site. You get components. Content is where your markdown goes. Layouts and styles and cons, those are all just like you can put whatever you want here. That's just the folder structure that this opinionated theme wants you to use. But really, it's just the content directory and the pages directory are the two kind of magic folders. Content's where your content goes, and then pages is where the file-based routing kicks in. So similar to public, like any routes you put in the pages directory are going to map one-to-one with your final build output. So /blog/index is going to be /blog at the end of the day.
Nice. And content collections are not new, but for anybody who hasn't seen these before, this is a really slick setup where you get this ability to do get collection here, and then you can grab whatever collection and then just loop through them. Let me collapse this style. And here, right, you get your post slug, post data title, post pub date, all that kind of stuff. And that comes out of this content directory here because we've defined your blog schema.
Yeah, if no one's ever seen this before, this is like one of my favorite features. We launched it in 2.0, I believe. Yeah, this is a type-safe Markdown API. So if you've ever had that problem working with Markdown where it's like, oh, undefined is not, you can't do something with undefined because, I forgot that one front matter property in like 1 out of 1,000 blog posts. Like, oh God, how am I ever going to find it? This is running all of that through Zod, which is this really cool schema validator. So if you have a problem with your front matter not matching what you're expecting, it's going to warn on the file. It's going to point you exactly to where the problem is. And then here you actually get a typed object. So yeah, what you're kind of showing there, everything actually has that information on the post object. So
yeah,
you're typing, you write the dot, and now you're going to see a kind of intelligent, exactly what you can expect from this.
It's really, this is really nice. Like I feel like Markdown is one of those things that it seems like such a good idea if you're just a solo dev. But even as a solo dev, I always get myself into this situation where I've got completely unmaintainable Markdown. Like my front matter gets way out of hand because I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to tag my posts. But then I never remember which tags I have, and I'm not going to open every file to go check them. So you end up with this complete nightmare. But so you can do things with this that are great. Like you can actually make the what's it called in TypeScript? Tuple? No, union, where you can do like a union of allowed tag strings so that you can only use like, these are the 15 tags for this blog. If you use anything else, we're going to throw an error. Like, what a great way to solve that problem.
Yeah. I think there's this, again, I'm thinking through this like spectrum model where it's always like Markdown for simple, like 10 blog posts. And like, anytime you need more than that, go find a CMS. And like, I think this is, again, that kind of middle path where like, you can get a lot out of Markdown. Like I've built, like, I think people really like Markdown way more than other people give credit to. Like if you're deciding what to support and what not to, like every framework has blog as their tutorial. Every developer has like a personal blog, or if you don't, like you probably considered it once and then realize you had better things to spend your time on. But that idea of like Markdown is like a really, really essential, I think, just primitive for frameworks. And I think it gets kind of dismissed as like, oh, that's for starter templates. But then once you build something real at a company, you don't need it. And I think that's what this is exploring is what if there was a little bit more support here?
For sure.
And of course, being framework authors, we then get every bug report where it's like, I have a blog with 5,000 posts, and one of like that. Once you start to listen to that person, you're like, oh, there's a lot more we could be doing here on performance, on features.
Yeah, the rabbit hole, right?
Oh yeah.
But so we've got our content collection, so we might not need to look at those anymore. Then we've got the .astro files, which this is for anybody who hasn't seen this before. Kind of looks like a markdown file. You get your front matter here, and you can do anything you want up top. So just kind of standard. This is like the server side JavaScript, the stuff that'll get compiled, and then this is what gets served. And so,
Yeah.
just plain old HTML.
It's basically what we took the best of Svelte, Vue, and React and like combined them together. So that idea of like the bottom template is essentially JSX with a couple of like nice HTML. One of our early goals was that you could just paste HTML in and it would work. So we try like that doc type on line 8 would never work in JSX. There's a couple of things like that.
And you can use
and then
like
the top section
class
is like
equals.
the Svelte script tag. Yeah.
Yeah. So you get all this, and then like we can execute arbitrary stuff. I bet if we look in one of the more complicated pages, we'll see it. Yeah, like you can do some JavaScript right here, and this is done
all server side, guaranteed. Yeah, guaranteed running on the server, never ends up on the client. This component on its own would ship 0 JavaScript to the client by default, all server rendering.
Yes. So wonderful stuff here. All right, what else do you want to look at?
I feel like that's all the table setting needed. I mean, for the 3.0 stuff, I feel like view transitions is just an obvious way that we could make this site pop.
I love making stuff pop. That's why I got into web development. Let's do it.
It's been my word of the week. I think I've been annoying everyone on the team. Like view transition, but also like, what about this social image? Can we make it pop? And everyone's like, you sound like the worst version of like, I don't know, like a manager, a project lead. Is this popping for everyone? I appreciate all the patience from the Astro team. You all are saints. But yeah, let's make this pop, Jason. Let's do it.
I'm ready to make it pop. All right, what should I do first?
So I think the first thing would just be the default view transition. It's like 2 lines of code, and it'll give you this really nice fade between pages. So it'll be like a really easy way to just instantly see the tech working, if all goes well. And then we can go from there. So let's jump over to the docs. I don't know if you're a person who just likes to do it, but I feel like the docs are just, I'll just always shout out. We put a ton of effort into these docs to make sure I kind of walk through really clearly these steps.
Okay, so
you're getting the mobile view. So the top right, I think, is the yeah. There you go. That's better. And you can search, or you can just go find in the sidebar view transitions. That's the.
I'm actually gonna show off. I'm gonna hit the / and then.
Oh.
That's a really nice one. I use that a lot. Okay.
All right, cool. Let's just let's scroll down to the first code snippet. I feel like that's gonna probably have what you need. Yep, 2 lines of code.
All right, so I'm going to grab...
I'd say the biggest decision you need to make is just where this goes. You can put it on every page individually, but I believe this template comes with like a base head that's already been kind of abstracted into a reusable component. So for you, you see base head right there.
Okay, so we're going to go into base head.
Into that.
Oh, yeah, you can command click into these, can't you? Ta-da! All right, that's great. So then I can paste in this view transitions piece. And then we're just going to drop this in somewhere. We can drop it right at the bottom. And
if all goes well,
are we done? Well, that's it.
That should be it. Let's see. So the effect you'll get is a very nice, tasteful, subtle fade transition across pages.
Okay, let's go. Here we go. Oh, look at it.
Ooh.
Look at it go, everyone. Like this is so fantastic from a just a kind of quality of life update. Being able to put 2 lines in and just, you know what, it looks good enough, right? Like this feels like this
is the starting point. This is the jumping off point.
Yeah, and to give somebody the ability to get this far with the jump off point, because I mean I've tried to do this before. I remember back in the DHTML days. This was probably 2004, right? We didn't have, or at least I wasn't using jQuery yet. I wasn't aware of how most of this stuff worked, and I remember trying to write these horrible scrapers where you would get like the current page and figure out where the container was, and then you would load the next page and then scrape it to get that container and try to like grab the contents out, delete the contents here, put in the new contents here. But then if you wanted to do like fades and stuff, I just gave up, right? I was like, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And so the fact that now we can just, here's a little bit of stuff and the stuff just does the stuff and now it works. It's like, oh, what a relief.
Yeah. Well,
and
I'll give 2 big shout outs here because this definitely, like, if the browser wasn't this simple, like the platform API wasn't this simple, we couldn't be this simple. So there's absolutely a ton of credit to the Chrome team, all the spec authors, like everyone who's made this happen is just, this is like, again, another iceberg. We're standing on the shoulders of giants in terms of just like what we're doing is essentially taking the browser API, which maybe doesn't have full support yet, and we're wrapping it in an Astro API that is going to just iron out all the kind of rough edges and give you something as close to one-to-one of how the browser works. So you're not learning the Astro way. We're basically learning the platform way, but it's an Astro API that just kind of helps handle the backwards compatibility, handle any rough edges. It's really nice. Other shout out real quick is just to Matthew and also Nate, who did a bunch of early, like this is something we've kind of been working towards for about a year now. So this is not just like, oh yeah, let's like throw this in the release and hope people like it. Like we've been working pretty hard to get it to this point, and I'm so proud of the result.
Yeah, and like what you just said about the browser APIs, this is maybe my favorite turnaround in the last, say, 5 years, where I'm not sure what the official turning point was, but there's been a bit of a sea change where I felt like 5 years ago I was using a lot of effort to fight against the platform with my JavaScript, where the JavaScript frameworks, they'd all kind of built in, like React had implemented the VDOM and they'd implemented synthetic events, and like everything was sort of like almost browser, but not quite. Right. And then we've suddenly seen this shift in the last few years where it feels like everybody is moving back toward the platform, and the platform authors are doing a fantastic job of supplying these built-in APIs like the View Transitions API or like, of course, I'm not going to be able to think of anything off the top of my head here, but just these really nice APIs that supply the things that we need to do this advanced stuff that we want to build on the web. That to me is such a welcome change. And it feels now like the JavaScript ecosystem and the browser ecosystem have the opportunity to work together in a way that doesn't hit odds. And we're seeing more and more frameworks choose to work with the platforms instead of against them. And it leads to these really simple APIs. Because again, if y'all don't have to build a full state management system to get View transitions to work, you can just use a browser API. Like, of course we want that. Like, that's exactly what we're after. Yeah. And we don't get any extra, like, messy JavaScript to handle the loading of 2 pages and the crossfading of them and all those things that you would originally have to do. You just have to write, native JavaScript, 4 lines of JavaScript to turn on View transitions like this. And everything else is built into the browser. Like, gorgeous.
Yeah. Astro could not have existed, I think, 5 years ago. Like, it may be in the most cutting edge browser at that time, but like otherwise, it's just, there's only so much we can do without the platform's help. And I think there's this kind of like symbiotic relationship there where we are essentially the playground for the spec authors. They get to ship something, and behind like an origin flag, and like all of a sudden you have the audience and the framework starting to, because we want to build the best thing for our users. So like we all have incentives to test out the newest thing and give that feedback back. And then vice versa, like we then get these things that we don't have to do ourselves. So our limited team, limited resources, we can't go build every single thing. So the more we can rely on the platform, the more that we are able to do. It's a really nice, I think it's taken the industry a while to figure this relationship out. And maybe it's just a result of frameworks becoming more popular. But yeah, it's a really nice relationship for I think everyone. I think everyone wins there.
Awesome. Very, very cool. All right. So we've set up the 2-line View transitions, but you made it sound like we can do more. So how do we extend this?
Yeah, let's show the slide. So if you really wanted to customize this, let's just jump into like a slide animation. That's okay. The other kind of, this one's a fade. You mentioned that we kind of come with a couple out of the box, and yeah, basically we give you a couple that you can just reference by name. So fade for fade. Let me find if I can, where's that slide? Where do we got that slide? I'm actually looking through the doc myself because I want to make sure we, yeah, if you search the page for slide, you'll see the code snippet. It's basically, again, I mentioned there's this Astro APIs that help you work with this. One of them is the directive called transition animate here. And that's basically going to tell you how you want the page to transition. So this is where you start to add more control over what animates, how it animates. The default is that that fade, but let's add the slide instead to kind of change it up a bit.
Okay. And to do that, I'm going to add it to my main section because we don't really want the header and footer to change, right?
let's try that. And I believe, I'm not sure if you need it, but if you see in that code snippet, there's also transition animate none on the HTML tag. I can't remember if that's needed. We can go and dig deeper, but like, let's just to be safe, put that on now.
Sure.
The HTML tag. So that's basically like, let's get rid of this like default animation. And now let's
Oh,
control it a
right,
bit
because we don't want the wrapper to animate. We only want that main section to animate.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
We can. I'd be actually super curious. I forget what happens if you don't do that. Is it going to fade and slide at the same time?
I think
it'd be a fun experiment. To run. But yeah,
my
basically
guess
we're
is
trying to
that
disable the default.
yeah, I would guess that what ends up happening is that this won't really look like it changes, but it's like fading in and out on itself, which is kind of just wasteful and also not really what we want. So okay.
Yeah.
Oh, because I only put it on the blog, so we'd have to put it on each one that we want to use it on. Great, I can do that. So let me go in here. And this is where layouts would start to come in and play a role, is you would have your layout that, actually, can we do, oh, that's for a blog post only. So in here, we set it on the index.
Yeah.
Let's set it again. And then...
Yeah, so while you make that change, yeah, the idea of layouts is, it's really not actually that magic. Like that folder isn't magic. It's just the idea of componentizing this sort of like wrapping around pages. So if every page has this layout, you can put it in a component and it'll get this experience. So yeah, I'd say in the perfect, we could maybe even refactor this a bit on our side, like having that default layout for every page. If every page has a header, why isn't that componentized, wrapped up in like a main layout component?
Mm-hmm. This is...
But we didn't do that, so you just have the power to add it all individually.
Yeah. And that's...
Oh, and we'd have that
blog post layout. Yeah. So we can throw it in here as well. And I'll go down to my main. Okay. So now everywhere we go should be set up like this. Let me make this bigger. And as we move through the pages, each one pulls up like this. But I found something by mistake earlier, so check this out. When I go down here and I click into this, if I go back, it slides the other way. Did y'all see that? Like, this is
love
just...
that you found that.
It's just slick little changes that that you don't really think about, but it feels so nice when it works that way, and it's just built that way. Cassidy just showed up and called us fart nuggets. It's hurtful.
I saw that message. I was like, oh, another troll. I didn't actually see the username. I was like, amazing content. No
It's
longer
a term
troll.
of
Now it's just
endearment.
content. Dan. Someone's Dan. Amazing. Hey, Cassidy.
Okay, so I mean, this is like, again, built in. It did what we want. It's got the forward and backwards. It just feels really nice. Like, this is a really cool way of sort of managing this. But I have a request, because I've seen Moxie Ferreira did this, where he made it so that if I click this, like this image is here and this image is also here. I want those to like move back and forth. Can I do that?
Oh, are you saying it's morphin time?
It's morphin
mighty
time.
Morphin time. Let's do it. Yeah. Let's revert all the changes we just made, though, or let's keep the animation none, just to be safe. Exactly.
Oh, I was trying to find a good like animated GIF, and it's not. Whatever. This is not good use of our time.
Jason, we'll workshop the tweet later. 100% this needs to go out as a tweet somehow. If you can get the clip,
oh yeah,
and tweet that out, we'll tweet out the morphin time. Yeah.
Yes. All right, we'll do it. Okay, here we go. I have. You want to revert everything that we did.
Transition animate none. Yeah, keep the none on the HTML just to be safe.
Okay, and then I'm going to come to these.
Again, my live demo brain is causing me to be extra careful here.
All right.
Let's remove all of the slide animations. We'll just go back to the default a blank slate.
Get rid of that one, and that was everyone, right?
I think so.
You're set. You were using the layout. You're set. And I didn't change that one because that uses the blog post layout, which is set. Okay, good.
Cool. Let's do it. Let's see. So I'm seeing a lot of upgrade stuff here. I just want to make sure we get the... Oh, you know what? I ruined the joke. It's not called morph anymore. It's called initial. Let me find it in the docs for you. I know this is my old my old RFC brain. Actually, you know what? Let's just there's a whole section on built-in animation directors. Let's just quickly browse those. I'll link it in chat.
Okay, built-in.
Or you can find built-in animation directors. Yeah.
Right here?
So that's the full list if you want them. Yep. You got fade, which is what we've been talking about. That's the default. Initial, which is the browser. Again, this is us trying to really map to what the browser is going to do. So I'll show you in a second why it's called that. And it's still going to do a morph behind the scenes if we had the right settings, because that's what the browser does. Slide is what you just said, and then none is like disable it entirely.
Okay.
So initial is initial because this is actually going to be the default behavior as soon as you add a name to the component. So the way that this works is, how does the browser know that thing A on page 1 is going to be thing A on page 2? We need some way to kind of connect the two. So you basically have a unique ID that's going to span across them.
Okay.
If we find where on the page the documentation on naming, let me see.
Naming a transition.
It's a little bit actually up if you scroll up. Yeah. In some cases, you want to identify it, basically give it a transition name.
Okay.
And then that's going to help it animate.
Okay. So we'll take this transition name, and then I'm going to find in my blog index, we get the image. And so I want that image to be the one that animates. And we're going to have to do something because there's going to be lots of blog images. So I want these to be, let's go with like blog image, and then I'm just going to toss in the slug because that should be unique.
Yep.
Post slug.
You'd be surprised. You can kind of hack it. Like it'll work one way because, oh, actually, no, I don't know if it will. No, never mind. Ignore me. Yeah, you definitely need to. It's like key. If you've ever worked with React and this idea of like when I'm mapping over stuff, I need a key.
And
very similar. Yeah.
Yeah, and basically it's because like when we look at this thing, right? This is a blog image. This is a blog image. So if these all had the same transition name, it would probably work to here because this could be blog name. But then when we went back, there's no which one is it? It would just be like panic.
I was about to say that I actually think it would break both ways because how do I know which of these elements to merge onto the page? Like all 5 of them. Like I think you might just see a swarming of them all.
That's true.
I have no idea.
I don't know. Should we do it the bad way and then fix it? Let's try.
Sure.
So then down here we've got the where's our image? Is here. So then we can. I'll just drop this at the end. We'll add a U clip, and we'll call it.
What did you call it? Hero dash image? Was that it?
I called it blog image. Let me double check that. Nope, not you. Not you either. You. Blog image.
Cool.
Blog image. Okay, so these are set.
This will probably break.
This should break. And it actually didn't do anything because it didn't know what to do.
Yeah, that's my best guess at what just happened.
Okay, so then let's change that. And
which I will say is a little bit nicer than it just like morphing by like this horrible monstrosity.
I mean, I guess. Do I get the slug here? I'm going to have to get the slug.
There's this great image of like old internet versus new internet and like all the old like MySpace, web rings, like all the fun of that internet, and then like interfont, like Arial, Helvetica, nice white backgrounds with black text, just how boring the internet's become. So yes, you're firmly in the old camp.
Oh, wait. Okay, I'm still doing something wrong. Do I need to set something? Oh, wait. We set the transition to none, and we never told anything not to transition in here.
Oh,
so we've just kind of turned it off.
You need that initial thing. Yeah, you need that initial thing, I think.
Okay, so I just said this.
Sorry. I see what you're saying. Sorry, I see what you're saying. I don't know, actually. This is I should know this. Here's what I was going to suggest. On the image component, put in transition, what is it? The other one, animate, and give that initial. See what happens.
Okay.
I might be wrong. You're right. Maybe this top head one is. Let's see if that works. No, you're right. Okay. I don't know. It's actually. I think you're right. Let's get rid of my annoying my HTML tag that's disabling things. I think that's probably causing trouble here.
Okay, so this one we'll call Do we leave it as initial or do we just remove it altogether?
I'd say just remove it.
Okay, let's remove it. And up here, we remove it.
My intention to be safe actually caused my downfall. Make sure you're giving it a refresh, just a full refresh, just to be sure.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we're doing something wrong. This is
definitely me not knowing the API. So I'm sure I just saw someone demo this the other day. I know it's all working. And if you go back to the image component, let me just see what that ended up looking like.
Image component here.
Yeah, that should just work. This is where
here's
we go through the
here's
docs.
$1 million question. Actually, did I get the right piece? Transition name. Oh, it doesn't show me the name.
Transition name.
It is slug, right? Like slug is a thing. Slug does not exist on type, so I need to get it.
Oh, try title might honestly, or updated date honestly is probably unique.
Okay.
I don't know actually. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what's a unique identifier other than just like title.
Updated.
I'd be worried about like if there's any exclamation marks here. Oh, no, you're right. That wouldn't work too.
Do we get what else? What else is in here? Let's see.
Slug should be on there. It might be called something else. I always forget.
Is it under like?
Yeah, there's definitely a way to get the slug
matter or
sure.
something.
Yeah, there's a way to get the slug. Let me check the docs here. Consulting the docs.
Collection entry, blog, data.
It should just be post.slug.
Yeah, it looks like for whatever reason that's not coming through, and that would be because why? Because it's in a collection entry, and it gets.
Oh, Elian says use the post title. Let's use the title for now. I think it should just work.
Okay.
But slug should, yeah, that seems like a. Yeah, there we go.
So that was
And
the
then
problem,
title
is
on
that
the other
slug
side.
was just empty, and so I just
don't
need
think
to.
But it's working there though. See how it says post.slug? Like that wasn't causing.
What are you
impact there.
doing? You absolutely have a title.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, you know what
that's
it
where
is?
it's upfront matter.
Okay, I know
Yeah,
what's
or dot
going
data,
on.
right, dot data.
For whatever reason, we are only getting the data,
yeah,
and the slug is
yeah,
up a
yeah.
level. So we would need to figure out how to get the, because this is giving us the data, but
Just
we
only the data, nothing else.
yeah. So we're not getting like
you're
the
right.
up level to get the slug. So there's probably a
is
way to do it.
something
I feel like I have done this, but this should get us.
That is something that was totally fine for how this theme was working, but doesn't really give you a lot. Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
We're back.
Beauty. I mean,
Catch.
like
I always miss those type errors. Good catch on that.
this is really good.
That the top one is beautiful too. Just it kind of like it's a little bit bigger, just subtly. Boom, 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 boom.
Like, and it's so nice. Like, you know, and again, the issue here was that I was trying to key it with something that didn't match. And that actually makes me wonder if we put that transition none back in, does it?
Well, this is making me realize we probably never needed the transition, and that was probably me being overly cautious. But yeah, let's add it back. Let's see what happens. Why not? Let's
You're
let
right, Henri. It does pop.
It pops. You got to do that pop.
Okay, so here's my transition none here, and then click, and there it goes.
Nice.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, we could dig into like I should know the answer off the top of my head. It might be like the difference between does the rest of the content like fade out versus fading in, but like this is going to animate no matter what. Yeah, it clearly doesn't like disable animations below.
I think that's what it was.
Was my fear. Yeah.
Oh, here, watch.
so hard to tell now.
Watch the title here, or the menu here.
Okay.
That's the part that's, so you get that like it's fading on top of itself kind of thing, which is fine, but it does look a little nicer if you've got, like, to me at least, like my preference would be, oops, there you go. My preference would be to have it not do that, which is, what are you doing? Why won't you Be on top. There. Okay. So then here, now it like snaps to that.
Nice.
So a little bit cleaner. And that's a preference thing. So you can do however you want.
Do you want to do the title as well? We could do the title, which I think, and maybe even the date there. No, the date kind of moves. That'll be kind of a little.
Oh, but it'll be cool to show. It'll be wrong.
Cool to show.
It'll be wrong probably as like a permanent kind of application, but it'll be really, really cool to see.
This is something that I see a lot of people on Twitter kind of like, I think there's a real fear here. And I think it's like it's a right fear of like, is the entire web going to get like way too animated because of this? Are we going back to like some old school, just like, overused and like not accessible if someone has like motion problems with motion? It's a valid concern. I think knowing what's a demo and what's like, okay, but this is annoying. Like I wouldn't actually want that. It's going to be a line I think everyone has to figure out. Now that we have the power, we need the responsibility.
Is it here? Title?
Yeah, what now?
Oh, it didn't like I was trying to get the post object in the blog layout, which had already extracted it out. So what we should see now is some flight. That actually doesn't look as bad as I thought it was going to. Yeah,
the other ones look a little nicer. Yeah,
that looks pretty cool. I'm okay with that. Yeah, that actually looks really nice. Yeah. Probably don't need to animate the date, but the title coming in is pretty cool.
And also like maybe that like this is again where it's like, okay, what does this mean for the site that I've designed? Like if I was like, no, I really love this, I might recommend like, can you move the date under the title so that it's not as like you almost can match the web design to this feature so it's not as jarring. Like actually, you can do that now. Why don't you move on the blog page the time to be below the title instead of above it?
Let's see. We did it. Move it to be below. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Like formatted date there. Yeah, that one. Just move all of that. Yeah, that should be it.
Ta-da.
The spacing's a little off, but it's like you can start to make those sorts of changes as well if you really wanted to keep it.
Yeah. It already looks kind of nice and is doing what I would expect. And this is the sort of thing that, like you said, you have to work with design to choose how this works. And then the other question, you brought this up for somebody who doesn't has motion problems. Is this respecting prefers reduced motion? Like if I go into my...
it's a really... I think this is controversial. The web platform says that it's up to the developer to decide what to do.
Okay.
As a default, I think that's going to lead to more accessibility problems than benefits. So what Astro does is it actually disables it. Just straight up disables if you have prefer reduced motion on.
Yes. So
the thinking on the browser side is sometimes prefers reduced motion doesn't mean no motion. So it kind of is up to the developer as a lower level platform API that you should be able to, a very subtle animation is usually okay.
And a fade is different. We know that these are
going to be used in very, yeah.
So is this something that okay, so if I turn reduced motion on, it disables. Is this something I can override in Astro? Can I go tell it, let me do this, I know what I'm doing?
As of right now, it's only, you'd have to go into the lower level API and implement it yourself. I think there's definitely room for that, especially if a lot of people ask for this. But right now, getting it out, it was just simpler to turn it off.
Gotcha.
It's kind of the nice progressive enhancement part of this.
For sure.
Most sites shouldn't need it. But yeah, I agree that a nice subtle effect should still probably be on for everyone if the developer thinks that's okay and knows what they're doing, knows how to opt in versus opt out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is very, very, very cool. All right,
I'm super thrilled with how this is shaping up.
So we got a little time left. Anything else you want to take a peek at?
This is kind of the big. Nothing's gonna match this for how fun it is to demo. The image component, it's not as easy to demo in Dev because in Dev it's not really doing much. It's optimized. Actually, no, that's not true. It's doing a fair bit. We could do the demo and check out the image component.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's one of those things where it's again, the iceberg the majority of that underwater iceberg is optimization, which in dev isn't as big a deal, but I think it's still a good way to show it off.
And so here, we're using a plain old image component. If I want to upgrade this to be an optimized, like Astro optimized image component, is it drop in, or do I need to do something special?
Let's delete IMG and let's start typing uppercase IMG and see, or IMA. Yeah,
This one?
I think that's going to be it. Yeah, let's try it. And if you scroll back up, did that come from? Oh, I thought I was going to auto import it.
I think that gave me a type
mind.
for some reason. Like that was trying to.
Okay, never mind. That's me being fancy. Again, I'll link to the docs, just it's a good reference point for all these things. But yeah, Astro comes with a built-in image component now. Let me.
Let's look at image.
Yeah,
Images.
so Erica, core maintainer on the team, did an incredible job with this. Again, it's API, it's getting the types working, it's optimization across like a billion different platforms that support it. Really, really complex stuff here. But yes, we support the image component out of Astro :assets.
Okay, so that autocomplete worked. And then if I save this and I come back out here and I look at my image, which is this one now, we have a whole bunch of little bonuses just showed up. We've got decoding async, we've got loading lazy. That's pretty slick.
Yeah. What's interesting here, you can see the source hasn't changed because this is coming. I'm so glad we left this breadcrumb because it's in public. The whole promise is we're not going to touch it. So you can see because this was built using the old image tag, it's using the old image, which means that's just your source. It's coming from public. We're not going to touch it. If you wanted to move that image into the source directory, now you're basically giving Astro permission to optimize it. So instead of pointing to that file, because if we optimize it now, it's not really the same file anymore. We can't do that in public.
So this is.
But if you move it to source, you're kind of giving Astro permission to do
This
that.
is placeholder one. Placeholder one. All right. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to come into my source, and I'm going to create an images folder. Let me actually make it a directory. Images, and then I'm going to paste this in here. And then in my, I guess I'll just hard code it this time. Let's.
Ooh, no, you know what we got to do? I mean, if we're really going to do this, let's do it.
Yeah.
There is this great content collection helper for images.
Oh, sick. Okay.
Find the. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Oh yeah, there's a whole bit. Sorry, I was on the content collections page. If you go and look for images in content collections, it's on the images guide.
It's on the images guide. Okay, so
yeah.
images in content collections. Here we go.
Yeah,
I gotta
follow
remember
this. So this is saying in the content collection, put a relative URL that's going to be relative to that file. And Astro will just take care of the rest.
Okay, all right, okay. So then I'm going to move this up to, where's my content folder? We've got content.
Let's keep it in the images directory. Where you have it right now is perfect. We can talk about how you can get it in the content directory. It is possible. You basically need an underscore images. Actually, no, we can do that now. I don't know why you can move it in there. Go for it.
So I'm going to put this in here, and I'm going to rename it underscore images.
Yeah, underscore is basically like, this isn't really content, it's more supporting.
Got it.
Ignore this when you're kind of bundling and optimizing.
Which one of the markdown style guide was the first one? So we're going to go up a layer to images. Okay. And then that, I think, just does the whole thing. Okay, hold on. It broke. And do I need to restart it because that image is new?
You shouldn't need to. Dynamic routes, let's see, 404. It does say that image is... Oh, there's one more thing you need to do. If you keep following the guide, you're going to want to make sure that you're using the image, like update the schema, basically. This is no longer a string. This is actually an image. You can see it there in the cover column.
Oh, got it. Okay, so we're going to, on the image, we're changing this. I'm just going to copy paste it.
It's a little funky. It changes the format a bit. So if you see on the schema colon line, like the third line down, you actually need to change this function signature because you're going to get image as a argument. It can't be global based on the implementation details. So let's grab it from the function argument signature.
Okay, so we grab that out of here, and we make that into a function. Then that returns one of those, and then I can copy this and drop it in here.
Yeah, that refine thing is really cool. That's like kind of getting just at like scratching the surface of like if your image isn't the right width, like you're a developer who knows exactly the type of image you need, and maybe someone's going to come in later and paste the wrong type of image. This will warn you now versus at the moment of.
Oh, and now all of our images are broken because
Yep.
that's okay. This is an easy fix. So we're going to go up here into our public. We're going to grab the rest of our blog
Just grab all of them.
placeholders.
Yeah. You can actually drag in VS Code, which is pretty neat. So I would just go and do that.
Okay, so they're in there, and then I'm going to go into each of these, and we're going to go up a layer into images, and I'll just copy that, save, already got that one, fix this one, fix you, and fix you. Okay, so that should get us pretty close. What don't you like?
If you open up in the browser too, it should be giving you a little bit of a better, more like formatted error.
Okay.
If you go back to the Astro site, yeah, there you go.
First post does not match. Cover image must be at least 1080 pixels wide. Why don't I turn that off? Because I'm not going to fix all of these.
Yeah, not worth. And that might that's just an example. That's not like, oh, this is the optimal image. Just delete that whole refine step, I'd say.
Okay.
So everything down, yeah, just image.
Okay. And now it's happy. Good.
The fact that it's rendering means it looks good, yeah.
All right, so now if we peek at this in the inspector, we have something much more interesting going on here. This looks like we're doing some optimization to me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so this is like you are now connected to our image optimization. This image is getting read from disk. This is kind of like the complete story, really, because it's the content collections, images, like everything's working together here. The content collection is saying this is an image. It's giving you tools to like validate that the image matches your expectations. It's giving you the way to reference it relatively. And then on the Astro side, it is now able to pipe that into the image component in a way that Astro can then optimize it. So all behind the scenes, Astro is hooking this up as a part of your build, a part of your dev server, to give you something that just feels like I'm referencing an image. But behind the scenes, that image reference is going to then get piped through our optimizer without you having to do much at all.
And I like here that it's doing some stuff like some conventions that I'm familiar with. Like if you use something like ImageX or Cloudinary, you get these query string arguments like a W to set the width, an H to set the height, the F to set the format. And so this started as a JPEG, but now it's a WebP. So it's going to be smaller. And like if the image was uploaded at say 14,000 pixels wide because you uploaded something from your camera, you don't want that on the web. So you can now not worry about your clients needing to know about image optimization or like saving at running it through. I used to train my clients to go to Tiny PNG, for example, and I'd tell them like, upload things through there, or like squoosh.app or whatever it was. Just like drag the image in here and then download it. It'll be smaller, and then upload that. And it's like now you just get to skip those steps because that can happen programmatically, which is really, really nice when you start working on things like this.
100%.
Okay, so that actually went a lot faster than I expected. That took us less. That took us less than 10 minutes to demo that image component.
I'll tell you one story about this because I think it was kind of the most interesting thing, based on what you just said resonates. And it was a big part of I think our first design of this was very much like our opinionated take on like what is the best way to optimize images. And I think one of the problems we ran into was that, well, that's great, but what if I want to connect this to like Vercel, for example? They have a built-in image optimization service. What if I want to do it there? And like the opinionated differences between us, Vercel, ImageX, Cloudinary, everyone has a different understanding of what features can you add. And we were coming in with like, no, these are the right features. And it just like, I'm oversimplifying and kind of dramatizing, but basically like we kind of had to realize that this is we're entering a space that has a lot of players. There are image optimizations, there are CMSs, there are services, like all of these things. How do we design an API that is both opinionated in the way that we believe is the best way to build images and optimize images, but that you can easily then connect to an ImageX or a Cloudinary.
Right.
And that doesn't feel thrashy. That doesn't break you the second you do it. So I think where we settled here, it doesn't have every feature that I think every member of our team wants, but it does provide a really good base layer. And then you can extend this. There's a really nice API for extending this to connect it to one of those services. So you can just drop in Astro add Cloudinary or something like that would then hook you up there. Or you can build your own service that'll actually like totally like handle some of these things, like different options and different, you could build your own image optimizer for Astro. It's pretty pluggable.
Yeah. So is that something that exists today? Like, can I just say, all right, I've used the image component and my company decided we're going to switch to Cloudinary. Do I just add a setting or a plugin, or is that something that I'd have to roll my own right now?
Yeah, so if you're someone who wants to just roll your own, I just linked in chat the image service API. It's an entire API designed for rolling your own. But if you're just like, I want to talk to Cloudinary, that's a really quick like you're basically transforming that URL that you saw, the kind of like what's going on in here URL. You're just rewriting that to point to Cloudinary. And you shouldn't even have to worry with that because our goal is just to basically ship Astro add Cloudinary, built-in integration, and it's just set up for you.
That is one of my favorite things. Actually, why don't we, in case people haven't seen this before, can we add a little whatever your favorite JavaScript framework? Let's add a dynamic component in here just to show how quick that is to do. Because we have we have like barely 15 minutes left in the show, and we're gonna implement and ship some component in that time. And all
right, I'll give a shout out then. Yeah, check out this this link I just posted, because this is our integration catalog. This is where they all live. So these are, you can see like Cloudinary here. We're talking about Cloudinary. Here's Cloudinary for Netlify CMS, I think. Here's Sanity. Here's Tailwind. There's just a bunch of really good stuff here. What's the best one to show off? They're all so good.
Probably
Astro SEO. Yeah, which one do you want? You pick. This is
probably the fastest thing would be to choose one of the frameworks like Svelte or Vue or React or something, so that we can just kind of add one real quick and build a component.
Okay, cool. Go into the search bar on the left and just type in whichever component you want.
Let's see.
Svelte,
The
React,
lowest likelihood for error for me is going to be React.
There you go.
Why don't we do Preact? Actually, Preact is kicking ass lately.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm going to do some Preact, and this is the magic here. So check this out, y'all. I go in here, and I'm going to stop my server, npx astro add Preact, and I'm going to just make this big so that you can see how freaking cool this is. It's like, oh, do you want to install these packages? So I don't have to go install these packages. I just get to say, yes, I would like to install those packages. And it's like, oh, you have to update your config. Would you like to update your config? Well, yes, I would. I don't want to have to read a README. Oh, you need to update your TypeScript. Oh, cool. Yeah, do that too. Great, thanks. Now I'm writing Preact.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
So I go back, npm run dev, and then like that's it, right? I can just this button. I just go and create
try and import a JS. I don't think there's anything in here. So yeah, you'll write your first one here.
Okay, so we'll just call this one button.tsx because why not make that?
Okay, if you're doing a demo, you got to get a Canvas confetti. You ever use that package? That's the OG demo. Oh my God, the best. I'm going to blow your mind.
Canvas confetti.
This was back when we were building Skypack. This was always my go-to. Like, import this in the browser. Basically, just click button, get confetti would be the pitch of this. You have to connect it to Preact, but it'll
it should just work with the compat, right?
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, this is totally framework agnostic. This is this can be connected to anything.
Okay, so we got it, doing a thing.
Oh, I hate that it's still CJS.
It's all right.
You'll just have to rewrite those.
We'll make it work. All right, so I've got this. I'm going to import confetti from Canvas confetti. Then we're going to export const. I guess we'll just rename this.
Oh, you're an export const person, not a export function person.
Yeah, I don't know why I picked up this habit, but somebody told me that it was better, and so I started doing it. And they had a compelling reason that I've now forgotten, but it's a habit.
It's easier to type for sure. I know if you use TypeScript, that can be a thing. Functions are always so hard to type. I always hate that.
So what I want to do is like we'll do an on-click for...
It should just be confetti as a function call.
Oh, you just do it. You just do it like this.
Oh, that wasn't what I was suggesting, but yeah, I think that does work. Yeah, it's just like I think that's it.
Okay, so kind of like that. This is unhappy.
Can you get that like a text size like 100 pixel or I don't know how you make that as big as possible, but let's go big on this if we're gonna have some.
Yeah, why not? Right? We'll just do the font size 5 rem. Make it a monster. Okay.
Beautiful.
So that's that's complaining about types. Does this have a types package? Canvas.
Oh, yeah, canvas dash confetti, yeah.
Are you still mad at me? No. All right, you're happy now. Okay, good. So then I can go into, let's just put it in our footer so it'll be available everywhere.
Yeah, so if people aren't familiar, this is kind of what makes Astro so special is we don't pick one framework and like that's our thing. Like we're not the React framework, we're not the Preact or Svelte or Vue. Like we let you kind of pick because our architecture lets you, again, we're just giving you the ability to embed one of those interactive components onto the page wherever you want. So we don't actually have to pick. It doesn't really buy us much. So you could mix, you could have a Svelte and a React and a Vue component all working in harmony on the page. Usually you don't want to do that, but you can if you wanted to.
We'll set this one. I'm going to say client only because... Wait, why did I import this as button? That's not a real thing. Okay, so that then should theoretically, let's see, we should have a new button down at the bottom. Oh, I haven't started the server yet. npm run dev. And we get this enormous button over here.
I regret nothing.
All right, and amazing.
There you go. Confetti for everybody.
And so now we've got client-side interaction, and we did that in like 4 minutes. I mean, it really is like, this is the thing that I think is so dang impressive to me is that, it was like, oh, let's add another framework. And it takes this, right? The fact that the CLI just sort of takes the lift out of what would otherwise be a somewhat cumbersome config process. Okay, go install these packages, and then you got to tweak your TS config, and then you got to update the astro.config, and the CLI is just like, oh, you want Preact? Here you go, right? Yeah. That, to me, those are the sorts of little DX improvements that really make this special because it didn't remove any of your ability to tweak this. Like if I ever want to go back in and like mess with this, I can. Yeah. It's all here. I can see here's the Preact config that I added. I can go in, I can delete this, I could add custom settings to it if I want to. Like you can do as much config as your heart desires, but my heart desires 0 config. And so I like that Astro is sort of, it's more of an expressive CLI where you say, I want to do this. And then it's like, all right, so that means you're going to need to do X, Y, and Z. Do you want us to just do that for you? And I'm like, oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. I would say as framework authors, I think we get our heads up our own asses all the time. Like mine is up my own ass all the time. Like you think through like big features and you kind of miss these things where it's like, it's really annoying to add an integration, adding Tailwind or adding Preact. And I think these are the things that really make the Create Astro, that little Houston bot, just like at that moment where you're jumping into something new and you have nothing to latch onto, even a little empathy in that moment, a little fun, we got you kind of energy. It makes all the difference. So these things aren't hard to engineer. They're just like, it requires that kind of, stepping out of your tunnel vision on what's the best architecture, the best performance, and just more like what helps the developer feel comfortable here.
You just touched on something that I think is like a core challenge for product companies, right? And like whether you're building an open source framework or whether you're building a software as a service or a platform or whatever, right? Like the stuff that is exciting to us as the builders is these like moonshot ideas. We want to go out and build like something that's never existed before. We want to push the boundaries of tech. But for the people using the stuff, they just want to not fill out a config file. They want to not have to restart their dev server when changes are made to the config file. Like stuff like that as a builder, it feels like busy work to go and make that stuff function. But as a dev, it is night and day different when you get those types of things. And so the discipline of a builder to say, like, I'm going to do this thing that's not that exciting to me, but is very valuable to our users. Like that to me is that it's such a sign of, I think, like maturity as an engineer when you can make that trade-off and say, like, I know this is boring for me, but it's going to be really helpful for everybody else.
Yeah. The way that we always say that, I think everyone gets this wrong, is you need to be innovative and you need to solve real problems, and you need to do both. If you do innovative without solving problems, it's just cool tech, but it's never going to like really get adoption. If you are just solving problems, but you're not really changing much, everyone's always going to want to go with the bigger thing that's doing the exact same thing that you're doing. Like you need to be both.
Yeah.
To really make a difference in the world, I think.
Yeah, I think that's great. And like, you know,
can I show off one? Oh, sorry. Go
yeah,
ahead.
you absolutely.
I want to make sure we have time for one minute demo just to show off one more feature that went out in Astro 3 that I'm really excited about. If you go into that component, the confetti button, let's just add the ability for it to, every time you click it, it changes the text to increment, like celebrate 1, celebrate 2, celebrate 3.
Like with a use state?
Yeah. This sounds like I'm giving you like a elite coding challenge. Like, Jason, do you know how to add state to a component?
Do I know how to? Nope, that's not it. Okay, so what is the use state equivalent in Preact?
You know what? Did it get the types? Yeah, it might not have. I'd be curious if it got the types.
From Preact.
It's Preact/hooks.
Hooks? Yeah, okay. So then I've got that. I'm not going to type this and hope that that's okay. Actually, if I just do like a number, will it leave me alone? Good. Okay. And then what we can do is we'll set one of these. And we'll say set count is +1.
Nice.
Okay. And I guess I need one more curly boy. And then we'll set this count in here.
Nice.
Okay. So then that.
So click that. Click it a couple times. So much confetti. Okay. Now go in and change set count to +2 every time. Don't refresh the page or anything. And watch what happens. The button has the exact same state, but now you click it. And it's going up by 2. This is so subtle, but it makes such a huge improvement if you're building anything complex. Fast refresh is what it's called. I think it's called prefresh in Preact. Is the ability to push HMR updates that don't reset and clear out the state. So the code gets updated, but because it's all in hooks and it's all in this like kind of context that React stores, React actually is just going to keep that value exactly what it should be without resetting it. So if you ever have a modal, right, and like I have to click to open it, that's going to change the is open state, and now I go make a change, it's not going to go reset that to closed every time you're trying to change that modal.
That's huge, especially when you get into like complex dashboard stuff where you're like doing filters and stuff like that. Like I have definitely built features for complex products as like in Storybook to avoid having to deal with all the complex state of getting to that component.
Oh God.
Right.
Yeah,
and then you like drop it in and you're like, oh, that didn't work. What did I get wrong? And it's, you know, so this is, it's again, a little thing, probably doesn't feel like much until it makes all the difference in the world.
And Talv's dev mentioned like, I like that's scary. I'd still refresh the page. You totally still can. That's kind of like if you're just making little style changes and you're in React, so it's all code changes, not CSS changes. This gives you the ability, like, okay, I don't really care about like, yeah. If I was working on something very, very delicate, maybe you want to give a little refresh every once in a while to be safe. But
yeah. And you know, it did a refresh, and there it is,
just like everything else. Yeah.
Magical. I mean, this is great. So, all right, we're just about at time here. So, as we're wrapping up, where should people go if they want to learn more? I'm gonna start with the list of links that you gave earlier. So, the Astro 3.0 blog post. I'm gonna link to the official docs here, because they are fantastic. I saw Sarah in the chat earlier. Really, really, really solid work from Sarah and team. And then I'm going to link to you on Twitter. Where else should someone go if they want to learn more, follow along? What are the resources?
We are really active on Twitter from the Astro.build account, so that's definitely the best place to get updates. We'll be sharing, we'll have an email list one of these days, but we're in the middle of a launch week, so we got a bunch of stuff going on. Yeah, the Twitter account is definitely where to check it out. Today was our community day, so we have an awesome blog post about how we do translations in i18n at scale. Our docs have been translated into 12 languages, I want to say. Like thousands of pages of documentation, all through open source contributions. So it's this kind of incredible lift going on behind the scenes that for us English speakers, we don't really notice, but it makes all the difference. Yeah. These are all different varying levels of translation. And it's just, I think at one point we had like hundreds of PRs in a week, maybe even like 100 plus in one day. Incredible effort from our docs team, which is just so cool and so fun to watch too.
That's very cool.
It's easily by far the best way I'd say to get involved with the Astro community is like the DX team, the docs team is just like so good at running a project at this scale. It's really awesome to see. So yeah, you said Sarah's in the chat. Shout out to Sarah. She runs our docs and just does a fantastic job with it.
Sarah's petitioning for Canadian translations where you put the U's back into all the words.
Someone brought up the old Google translations used to have pirate. You could literally open Google and pirate. Like that was some Easter egg that they had. Like Latin. We gotta add the fun ones.
So good.
Pay respect.
I'm tired of my PR edits. All right, and then I'll throw a link out to the Discord as well because it's very active. It's a great place if you want to go show something off or chat directly with the core team.
Can I give one more plug?
Hell yeah.
It's been our launch week. So one of the bigger, actually, before 3.0 went out, Tuesday was our product hunt launch for Starlight. I'll give a huge shout out to that because it's one of my favorite things we've been working on. You should be able to just Google Starlight or I don't think we did a blog post about it. Okay. Starlight.astro.build is the website.
And this is like full-blown docs in a box, right?
Oh my God, you got to stop being so good at these little taglines, these little snippets. I love that. Docs in a box. Yeah. Amazing. I can't even focus. That's so good. I see Sarah be like, OMG. This is docs in a box. You said it perfectly. It's everything you need to build a doc site. Basically everything we've learned building Astro docs at that scale I just mentioned, wrapped up in a template for you to use. So we built our docs site ages ago. We're still working to move this over, but this is basically like we want to redo our doc site and like why don't we do it in a way that anyone can leverage and make it open for others to kind of remix. So
and if you've got
we're no longer live. The day is over, but I think
the day is over.
People over there to celebrate. But yeah, we made number 2 spot. There's some AI thing that beat us. I'm not bitter.
I'm not bitter.
No, this is our first time doing that. Like I've never done a thing on Product Hunt, so the fact that we got to number 2 is awesome and speaks to just how much this need. There's a ton of other great, like we are so inspired by DocuSource and all these other ones, but in terms of like a new take on it, fairly new, still early. Definitely, we're still at our V0 days, but there's a lot of cool stuff, and it's all powered by Astro, so you're getting all the benefits of what we just demoed today.
Very, very cool. All right. Well, with that, we are going to call this one I'm going to say a massive success. This was so much fun. I feel like so many things to be excited about in Astro, in V3, just in the general community around building cool stuff for the web. That's something I didn't mention is that one of the things I've loved about Astro is just bringing together people who are just very joyful about building for the internet. And to me, that's such a, I don't know, I've missed that. I feel like we spent a lot of time in that, like, very, like, we were all kind of like clenched, like, gotta build the best JavaScript. And now I'm seeing more and more people just say, like, I don't know, what if I just built like something that made me smile? And again, because of the lack of boilerplate required, you can build the big serious thing in Astro, or you can just build a little, I don't know, a button that you click and it just makes the word butts appear on the screen as many times as you want. And that makes you laugh. And like, what a great thing to build. It takes you 5 minutes, you ship it and you're done. And so I think to me, that's like let's bring a little joy back into this field, and like let's do things just to make each other laugh. Like let's see if we can create the GeoCities of 2023, and lean on the fact that tools like Astro make it so dang simple. I'm going to give another shout out to our sponsors, Netlify and Vetsu Code, who have made it possible to have the live captioning, which is being done by Vanessa today. Thank you so much, Vanessa, from Whitecoat Captioning. We've been talking to Fred K. Schott. I've dropped the link to Fred's Twitter already. And while you're checking out things on the site, make sure you go look at the schedule, because we got so much good stuff coming up. Yuna is coming on, going to talk about all those new HTML and CSS APIs that Astro is building on top of. We've got Miriam coming on. We're going to talk about CSS container queries and a whole lot more that I've been too lazy to get posted up on the site. So stay tuned. You can follow the calendar. You can follow get on the newsletter is probably the easiest way. But, whatever it is, come hang out. We love having you. Let's go build some goofy stuff for the web. Fred, any parting words before we call this one done?
Just thank you for having me on. This was a ton of fun. Everything you just said about the web, that's 100% where we're coming from. So it's awesome to hear you say that, and that it resonates with you. Yeah, really, really excited with how this went.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, y'all. We're going to go find somebody to raid, and we will see you next time.